and share, and that way those who are coming late will have a chance to go in. I'm going to go ahead and, Jan, welcome. Jan, I just want to hug you through that screen.
Hi.
I need to see you in person this year.
Yes.
Okay.
Turn that off.
We're not
It's really dark.
Okay. So let's take a look. So I'm going to context the strengths through a leadership conversation because everyone in here is working with people. And then we're going to get to that board of directors that I promised you tonight was going to be on. But I want to ground us by remembering you were put on this earth to make an impact. That's my personal belief. If, I may have to go around and mute. And don't stress if you have sounds in the background. It's not a problem. If you can mute yourself for this first portion, go ahead and do it. And we're so glad that you're all here. Excellent. So this place of leadership, you were born to be a leader. I have a lot of people who tell me, yeah, but I'm not a leader. I'm actually not a leader. I'm just an employee. Or I'm not a leader. I'm a mom. Or I'm not a leader. And everybody is leading. Every single person is leading. If we all knew that and we all believed that, it opens up new possibilities, not only for your strengths, for where you want to aim them to go. So for the sake of this call, if that hasn't been you before, I want you to try this on, that you were born to be a leader. So give yourself a raise. You can put your name on the door if you haven't. That's the mindset that I want you to have tonight. Okay. So when you started your journey, at the beginning, even at the beginning of the strengths journey, you can even start there. It's like you're seeing things you've never seen before. Finally, you have a language for what's awesome about you. Kind of. And also you're secretly terrified that this is why you can never be a leader. This is why people won't want to follow you. This is why you have disconnect, all of the above. So it's just that space of it's so good at the beginning, but then as we start unpacking some of this, I know some of you have noticed it feels complicated and clunky to try to understand these 34 themes. It's clunky. It feels complicated to figure out how to aim them, how to volume control. What do you do after you get it? And then it's how do I even enroll somebody to come on this call tonight? A lot of you are thinking of your teams and your people, and you're I wish I could bring people on, but I don't even know what to say. To enroll them, to get curious about themselves or get curious about me. Raise your hand if you're hoping someone in your life will get curious about you and what you need. Because I know that's happening, yeah. That would be so cool. People that you're working with, working for, relationships, wow, kids, all of the above. So when we first start, that beauty and the possibility that we saw, it doesn't always last. Although some of you took the strengths test and thought, as I did back in 2008, this is the reason your life is not turning out. This is why your headspace has a do not enter sign, because sometimes it is not so safe in there. Raise your hand if you have ever had a headspace where there's some great criticism happening and there's some turmoil, overthinking, 2 a.m., hello, anxiety. So we know that. So sometimes the reaction to the strengths isn't yes, it's oh God, help me. Make it stop. How do I fix these and get the ones that she has? How do I move those bottom 5 up into my top 5? Can I make it if I don't have those in my top 5? How many of you have thought of that? Yes. Yes, we have. Do I have the right strengths to do this vision that I've chosen? Am I going to have to unwind myself and recreate myself to have this vision turn out, to be understood, to have connection? This is what I hear all the time. So when you start out and you're in the dream mode, and tonight we're living in possibility land, it's oh, now I can see everybody's equal, and I see my vision, and my dream is awesome. We're going to hold hands, and we might even sing at the end, and we can totally do that if you want to. I'm open. I have 6 songs in the back of my head right now. It's a spiritual gift. You're welcome. I don't have the words right, though, because I have auditory processing disorder. So the lyrics are about 60%. So it's fun for my kids to try to sort out what that really meant. They have to Google all the lyrics because they're quite sure it can't be what Mom said. But anyway, as we go through that process, I want you to come back in and refresh yourself with the uniqueness that is you. Because yes, I want you to create connection and have intimacy and build your business or enjoy your career, build a life that's in the lifestyle that you want. But no one is going to be able to read your mind, and you're going to have to learn to set expectations, because only 1 in 278,000 share your top 5 talents in random order. And only 1 in 33.4 million share your top 5 talents in the same order. So you can believe you are unique. This is why I don't fit in. This is what I usually hear. This is why I don't fit in. Awesome. 1 in 12.2 trillion, same top 10. So there is nobody that has your board of directors. It's not going to happen. Your strategies for survival are unique. You are very special. You are very capable. You are resilient. Nobody has your story. Nobody went through the same set of experiences. Nobody has the same exact DNA. It's totally remarkable. So the way that I look at the strengths themes are, I like to picture a little board of directors, like a table, like the one in the picture. And these top 10, I personify them. And we're going to do some coaching tonight to help you do that. That top 10 is advising you. Some of them are loud, some of them are introverted, some of them are extroverted, but they are all contributing. There's energies that they have, needs that they have, something they're dying to contribute. And sometimes it can feel like there's a war inside of you. Like you're conflicted, you like have 2 minds or 6 minds about how to approach something. Change the temperature in the room and suddenly you get 15 ways. Because actually you can resource 11 to 15 also. And sometimes when you're stuck, it has nothing to do with your top 5 or top 10. There's needs present 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. In terms of connection and being able to vibe quickly with people, love the word vibe. Surprisingly enough, that's a really big thing in the Midwest. I heard more high vibe, low vibe. I don't vibe with them in the Midwest than I have in California, which is where I thought vibes came from. Because I'm a Maine girl who's out in California. So it was so funny. I'm like, oh, vibes are in the Midwest. It's in the middle of the country. This is so fascinating. So if you ever notice, you don't vibe with everybody. That when you see other people, you're like, oh, they're totally high vibe and I'm not like that. Or if you keep your high vibe on too long, people are not going to want to meet you there. Have you ever thought that? Like, I'm like too much. I'm too much, or I can't keep up, or I can't compete. So in that process, I always remember for myself, I gave a strengths presentation in downtown Santa Rosa, California, where I live yesterday. And I do palm reading at the end, which is not palm reading because I don't have that gift. But I do listen to their top 5, and I'll do some of that tonight at the end. And I just speak intuitively and prayerfully over what I see in those strengths. Sometimes it's making assumptions. Sometimes there's something really meaningful in it. But that bottom 29 to 34, somebody raised their hand and they had all of 5 of my top strengths and their bottom 8. And I'm like, this is great. I don't know how good this palm reading is going to be today because I can't really make up from an intuitive place if I haven't related. That's what the story I was telling myself. But I did it anyway in front of the whole room. And I got an email this morning. I posted it on my page. She's like, that was mind-blowing. I'm like, yeah. So you can't even make up that you're not, like I can make up, I'm not going to vibe with them if they have the bottom. Sometimes that's true. Sometimes that's not even true. Quit making it up. Stop judging people when you see their strengths set. They are the expert on their strengths. It is not a sign of whether you can connect or not. It's also not a sign about whether you can be successful or not. So I want to make sure we're contexting this in the way where you're not using this as the laws of me, the laws of what's possible for you, or the laws of, it's like this is just a language that we use to understand each other better and have better conversations and to develop ourselves and organize ourselves and to get curious about other people and move us away from those assumptions. So this makes me think in my own life, what do I define a good leader to be? And what am I comparing my strengths to? And then also it made me think, where do I need to grow? Am I only using what is my autopilot show? Like my show when I'm in autopilot is when I'm not grounded and centered, my strengths actually move to what we call the toxic triangle. And so in that place, I might feel stuck. I might feel, depressed. I might feel disempowered. I might feel like I'm waiting. My strengths when I'm in a codependent space is more like reciprocity is my focus. And I'm like, yay, I see your strengths, go do your thing. And now I'm waiting to see if you work as hard as I do. Thank you, achiever number 4. I'm waiting to see if you're meeting my value. So reciprocity, codependence is a very different way. What do your strengths look like when they're codependent? Different kind of voice on my board of directors, I have to say. When my strengths are in independence, now some strengths live here like some influencing themes, it's default because we feel so confident when we're on our own. We don't have to check in with people, but hello, there is relationship everywhere. So when I'm in independence, I forget my stakeholders. When I'm in independence, eventually I may even end up alone. It might feel good for a while, but it's not sustainable. It can lead to burnout.
Why isn't this?
Yeah. So yes, whoever that was, amen. And then at interdependence, if my strengths are at interdependence, then I'm in a different zone because I'm like, I know who I am, I know who I'm not, and both are okay.
Shut up.
So I'm looking at my confidence and my vulnerability and taking a look to see if I have the space of where I can juggle those and get them to become more. Let's go ahead and I need to mute that last. Make sure you're muted if you can, just in case, because it's on recording. Can't see everything, but I'm trying. Let's see if that works. Okay, so in that space, I know who I am, I know who I'm not, and both are okay. That's the goal. So as we look at our board of directors in a couple minutes, that's kind of what we're going to be talking about. So we want to be super honest that that's not happening right now for most of us. We have moments of it, but it doesn't always last. Because when results don't turn out, the first thing we do is assess ourselves, our contribution. We start just overthinking it or judging or blaming or creating possibility. It's just a human condition. This is a diagram that I made to kind of show where I see strengths coming in. So at the beginning, we're like super excited. We started our business. We're going to go help people. We're focused. We're determined. We have a plan. We have tools. And it's all this external learning at that point. And we cycle around in there because it's all super exciting and there's lots of skills to learn. If you have learner, you may find yourself stuck here until someone tells you to take imperfect action. If you have input, you might find yourself super excited and you need to become the expert on these tools that you're doing so you can output them before you enter into personal development. So then you see that yellow triangle going down, and this is when something happens, an event occurs that causes you to start questioning, really, what's wrong with me? Something happens out of your control. You didn't see it. What's wrong with me? And so strengths is about that identity place, but we're saying what's right with you, and you can organize yourself so more is right. After that little reflection, you might also be feeling, once you've learned the strengths and identified in yourselves, you might be thinking when you're in a conflict, I know me, what's happening with them? Yet notice out of your front line, your office, your clients, how many of them have you invited to actually take the strengths test so you could figure out what's right with them? So you could speak the same language. Just do a little self-check-in. Who are you not inviting to the journey and why? Who have you not been willing to have a curious and rolling conversation so that there might be a language for you to connect more? Once we're in that space and we develop that external awareness, then we are doing the strengths and emotional intelligence development. We're starting to see problems as possibilities. When we hit a conflict, we get excited because we're going to have a breakthrough. Instead of, here's a conflict, oh no, what am I supposed to say? Who do I have to be? Which of my needs aren't going to get met? Who's picking on me? All of those things that we normally do in our monkey brain, now you're going to be like, I can stay in it. I've got tools. But this whole reality, does that mean it fixes everything? Is a strengths journey going to suddenly help you to execute all the way to your goal? Is it going to help you to have the most meaningful and intimate relationships? Not until you face the door of despair. That door of despair is where you actually move from complaint into longing, which produces grief. It produces reality, like helps you to see the reality. And in that space, You may think, I don't think I want to. I don't know if I can. What if they can't? Because you are predicting the future. Your predictive test is using your rearview mirror. It's always been this way. They've always been this way. They have those strengths. I have these strengths. All of the reasons why you stay in disconnect. And until you face that and what's working about staying in disconnect, you're not going to move into transformation to develop your character and to have conversations with your soul about whether you really care about having a vision for those relationships or not. Who are you going to be for them in your leadership? What kind of leader are you going to be? You're going to be mediocre? Are you just going to be super polite because the story of you is I need to be nice? And if I need to be nice and everybody's a volunteer, I don't need to transform my character, but there's no depth. There's no intimacy. You can't get to freedom and that heroic place of I know who I am, I know who I'm not, both are okay, without facing your despair and your longings and your grief about what is. Impossible. Gotta get real. So that's the context of how I host strengths. It's not the same. You go to a Rachel class or a Jen class, their presentation and context is different than mine. This is mine. This is mine. I want you to just sit in with this space of not just longing tonight as we build this board of directors, but I want you to start thinking about what the freedom could be like if you trained this board of directors to be an all-star team. What if they work together towards the goal? What if you can actualize this learning into like a way of pivoting and adjusting yourself in relationship and thinking and curiosity and asking questions so you can create joyful partnerships with meaning where people are empowered by your ability to be present with them without judgment. This work requires a no judgment zone. There's you, which some of you have already done the you part. It's time to do the them part so you can apply it to the situation. Don't get stuck on you, learner inputs. Just not picking on you tonight, but I just want to say, there is this place where it's like continuous. It's like this wow and intellection and wow and wow and wow. And my activator is crying out tonight to move you across that threshold of discomfort where you see your greatest power and have the potential for the greatest meaning. Let's get curious about others. Let's help others do this journey, not because they need to know the strengths language. That's just what you and I are using. Doesn't mean we're going to use it with them, but so that everybody can get free. Take themselves less seriously, get more curious, and this movement keeps spreading. There are 4 categories that these all fall into. Don't get stuck on the title. They created a book and they found there were similar needs and contributions in these themes. But you can strategic think with a relationship theme, and you can influence with an executing theme. The way you influence is your style of it. This is organized this way in Strengths-Based Leadership. It's a great book, great audio. Those 4. How many of you have been, when you don't have executing themes in your top 10, you're like slightly worried you can't produce your goal? Yeah, right? I can't relate to that because I'm in all 4, but I can relate from a coach's perspective of like, you will never have the same needs as somebody with executing, but you got to do you to your goal because you know how you're motivated. You just need somebody to ask you questions so you get back into that space. You do execute and produce. You just don't do it with those themes. So get off that tonight. I don't want you to leave this meeting and say, I'm not an executor. You're a producer. You produce with what you have. Maybe it's thought. Maybe you need to align your work with your genius zone. We can talk about that too. I like these colors. I try to stick with these colors from Gallup in all the work that I do because it keeps it super simple. And you can see executing, influencing, relationship building, and strategic thinking. And at this moment, I'd like you to go ahead and enter into the chat box your top 5 so you can connect with others who have similar themes or different themes that you're curious about. So go ahead and type those into the chat box. And through that, I just want to remind us that like the story that we tell about those strengths as you're introducing yourself in there, say whatever you want to say about your top 5. But notice, we waver from I'm awesome to that was hard. They didn't understand me. I don't fit in. All the stories that you tell about those top 5, we just want to set those down. As we build the board of directors, just set them down. We want to create a space where it's totally okay, the ones that you have and what you didn't have, out here, this is just a curiosity laboratory. So everything you got is perfect, at least for the next 30 minutes. So try that on. So just anytime those thoughts creep in, you're like, oh, she has achiever. Don't do it. Don't do it. And if you're judging one, just wait, because whatever your judgment is about it, somebody's going to come and interrupt your assessment and assumption about that theme. It happens to me daily. And I can even tell you those, we all have them. So now, this is another component of this. When we're thinking about other people's strengths, you'll notice your own bias, not only with the strengths, but like, people are what? If you think men in your industry, what do you label them as? Or what do you label your industry as? We have assumptions and assessments about everything. So just to be reminded of that, this is a no judgment zone. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to start looking at what a board of directors is. And then I'm going to pull up that screen. So in order to do that, I'm going to take a look at this chat box. Beautiful. Look at this. Awesome. We're all over the map tonight. Jen, I'm the McDonald's of the top 5, all red and yellow. Love you. That is so perfect. So perfect. I worked for Ray Kroc's protege. He was my first mentor. So this is especially funny that you said that in here. Love it. Look at this power in here. Beautiful. Beautiful. Excellent. Okay. And I will type mine in here too. Where are my connectedness people? Am I grounded enough? We doing okay? Okay. All right. Awesome. Okay. And those are my top 5. Okay. So, board of directors. So what I like to do with this, and we're going to talk about it. Some of you, if you've gone onto the online program, you've seen my little graphic. And some of you have made them, so we might talk about that. Let's see if this is going to show for us. Is it showing? Okay. So this is just, obviously it's not my full 10, it's 8. And I probably, if I did this today, the faces would be different. But at that moment in time, this is how I viewed my board of directors. So the story behind this exercise is when I was coming out of my wheelchair, some of you don't know, but I lived with reflex sympathetic dystrophy and permanently disabled for 10 years. I love to say that because they said I would never walk. So it was permanent, but I'm in remission. So I can walk and unassisted now, which is exciting. And I'm 5 years of my business. 5 years ago, I finished my infusions, which is super exciting today. But in that space, when I took my strengths test, it wouldn't have quite looked like this. They would have been very different faces. So this is a more recent version, partly because some of my strengths changed. But at that time, I started reading this book called Taming the Gremlins. Have any of you done any gremlin work? Anybody seen that? That book, it's like from the 70s, but they had it at like a used bookstore, and I found it. And the act of identifying my thoughts apart from reality, like noticing what my perceptions were. Your brain thinks perception is reality. So our perceptions are not always true. And it takes some time as we get older to identify what those perceptions and assessments are and stop believing everything that you perceive. So the exercises in that gremlin book was to start identifying those and understanding when that critic came in and he looked at them as gremlins. For me, I see shadow and light of a lot of the themes, like balcony and basement, helping and hindering. You'll hear the Gallup words change every year or every couple of years, which is totally fine because the work should evolve. But there's this place of identifying characters and really imagining those as people was a way for me to self-organize because I'm a pretty creative person. So when I thought about connectedness, I thought I really can default back to this place of a childlike faith where I just feel like we're all a family. Like I just feel connection to everything in the world, the nature, the electricity, the people. I always have like this assumption that people want to be in my family. And I found out as I got older, not everybody wants to be, no matter how many times you try, Or strangers, not all of them, like if they have high deliberative, for me, which is my 34, sometimes I level jump because I assume connection, and they have layers because they're very cautious and careful. And so I'm learning to allow people to bring themselves to the table at their pace. That was something that I had to mature into from my early 20s. So there's a space. Analytical can be the same way. It's like you have to let people be where they are. But I wanted to live as an invitation. I didn't want to level jump on people and assume, but I wanted to live as an invitation. And the connectedness is one thing that allows me to do that I can fall back into when I feel disconnected. So there's that space. There's also this, I also picked a child because connectedness does get triggered. Remember, all of these strengths have a need, a contribution, triggers, and overuse patterns. So even though I can connect the dots between all kinds of things, which is sort of analytical, when I put out energy into the world, I love to close that loop. And so connectedness is like, why didn't that come back to me? Like I threw this ball and nobody threw it back. What is happening? And then I'm like in my head, like, why aren't they texting me back? Where did they go? My connectedness is triggered. I've said that way too many times. So there's a place where I just use that language to describe my love of closing loops, which is a little achieverish because that's the dynamic I have with that other theme. I want to check the box, done. Intimate connection, relator, happy, achiever, done. So this is why I ended up choosing this picture. You don't have to overthink. When you're selecting images, you don't have to overthink all of these. But I do want you to hear what those stories you tell and which of your themes are informing them. So for instance, achiever for me, there's a little bit of intensity. Like I have that little crease he has. I've had that since I don't even know when. I remember it was pointed out to me at 15. They're like, don't put that on your brow yet. You're only 15 years old. And I'm like, it's there and I'm intense and I'm focused. And so I'm like, when I saw his crease, I'm like, he's the guy. He's the guy. On a hard day, if I'm stressed or triggered, there's a little should in there. Like, get it done. You're late. You wake up in the morning and if my kitchen's a mess and it wasn't my fault, I'm like, who messed this kitchen? Who did not provide that level? You know, my codependence comes out. I'm like, I'm scorekeeping on y'all right now because the crease is here. So I know when that's there, I need to like go get Botox or something, which I haven't done. But I'm like, what do I do with this thing? I just can't get it out there. So my achiever and overuse, or when it's triggered, crease. So that's why I picked him. So really superficial. I don't know that that's the voice of it, but it measures to me. Like it matters to me. I like to think my activator is inspirational. It's not for everybody. Not everyone looks at me as Oprah. But for me in that space, I feel like Oprah is activating me or something else, just something, it's an inspirational, you know, to get out of stuckness and into something greater. Activator for me doesn't do stuck. Any of you have activator are like, I'm not going to do stuck. Number 1, Jen. Oh, I'm jealous, except I'm not supposed to be. So yeah, totally. So strategic. When I think of my critic, it's totally my strategic because he's a know-it-all. He knows everything. He's older than me and wiser than me. And he's doing this. And we all know what that means. It's like, you should have known better. So those are some old tapes, old traumas that kind of come in. So those are mine. I know some of you have made yours. Feel free to pull them up if you have made one, and you can share your screen and we can play show and tell. Does anybody else want to pull up their board of directors? You're welcome to share it. So let's talk about that. Who wants to talk about their board of directors? Think about your number 1 strength, just to start, if you've never done this before. Who does your number 1 strength sound like on a great day and on a hard day? Just wave to me and unmute yourself. Jan says, we can get those pictures at Gallup Strengths. Oh no, my friend, you can get it on the Kajabi course that you're a member of. So there's links on there for you to go get free images. And there's a couple suggestions, like I used Unsplash. You can use Google Images if you change the setting. You're not selling with it, so usually you can utilize images that are out there. But you can use Unsplash. You can use, if you're in Canva, they have a bunch of images. And there's a few other suggestions on there as well. And I think it's day 7 of the course. and I'll make sure that you got your email for that. So just message me if you can't log in, and I'll help you get to that page. But I'm pretty sure it's day 7, which is great. Rachel, it's day 6. So close. Day 6. Thanks for checking. All right. So who wants to talk about their strengths and their board of directors? Give me a little wave. Jen, can you do it? Just make it up in your head for me and activate this thing. That number 1 activator. Okay, cool.
That activator is coming in. Just quickly throw on earphones. Okay, so I'm a little behind in the course, clearly. I've been activating lots of other things.
Awesome. We're going to start again in February together.
Okay, good stuff. Let me just throw this in. Quickly, we have a young person studying for exams and looking for lots of guidance. My little contact's number 1 son.
Oh, awesome.
Right? Yeah. Best day of his life was the War of 1812 reenactment when he was like 6. It's like, who are you?
That's so awesome. I love it.
Meanwhile, I was stabbing myself. Okay, so activator is my number 1. On a great day, it's like Brendan Burchard, if you're familiar with him.
Yes.
He's kind of like all on all the time, right? The dark side of that is the visual is just like literally banging my head against the wall. Because the wall is the obstacle, but the motion keeps going, even if there's an obstacle.
Right.
Super counterproductive. My input, which is my number 4, ideation and input I have, which means this never ever shuts off, ever. And so my input, my image for that, if everyone remembers the Tweety Bird cartoon, grandma with the little bun and the little glasses, spectacles, my image for my input is her, and she toddles herself over to one of those old card catalogs at the library, and she goes in there, right? And she looks, and she has all the information, it's all in there, and she knows exactly where it is. My communicate, so I don't have like a person view, it's all sort of like an action related. My communication is an old school, maybe I do have a little context, it's all old stuff. It's an old receptionist, like an old telephone operator board, like a switchboard where they plug in all the wires. So because to me, I was quite, like I said, the McDonald's of strengths, I was quite dismayed to see that I had no relationship building skills in my top 5, but clearly I have relationships, right? Positivity is number 6 and woo is 8. So they're there. But I think a lot of how I do what I do is that I plug people in to that information. So I think for me, the only one that's an actual like physical character is my input. And my ideation is just a tornado. It's like a word cloud, but it's swirling. And it just depends on what the tornado warning is for any given day, whether we're, like somewhere nice or like Oklahoma. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. And my futuristic, I was really, really leaning into this the other day. My futuristic is such a mindset that I don't even, it's the one that I don't even think about. It's just how my brain works. It's always going forward, and I don't even, like, that's the one that's probably comes to me with the most ease and causes me the least problem.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I love, futuristic. So it's so funny depending on, obviously the pairings, this is why the theme dynamics are so important. So I want to make sure you've logged in to Gallup and looked at all of your reports, your customized reports. Don't forget to unlock the rest of your 34 because it's still on sale for $39.99 to unlock the rest. You don't have to take the test again. They're just going to reveal the rest of it to you, because then after this, we have to do our blind spot work. We get to do it. It's not a have to, it's a get to. Awesome. Thank you so much, Jen. Wasn't that a helpful visual? Feel free when people share to send them a note in the comments if something resonated for you, so we can create some conversations in the chat box. Just go ahead and do that. Anybody else want to share their board of directors or talk about their number 1 theme or their top 5? Awesome. Anybody wants some coaching if you don't want to share what you have or you're having trouble figuring it out. It doesn't have to be perfect. It could be, the vision you had today. When I think of my number one, I think it's, this is the first image that came to mind. It doesn't have to be put together. I'll go ahead and open that chat box. So Rachel says, love the energy you bring, Jen. Awesome.
I am always happy to jump in, and I will tell you whatever you want to know, but I would love for other people to have an opportunity, because I feel like I'm going to be doing a whole lot of talking as we go through the Spark in general, and everybody will get to know me.
That's my plan. My plan is to have Rachel do a lot of talking. That's the plan. You got to get to know Rachel, which is awesome. I brought you a teacher. I'm so excited. But do you have your image? Do you have your board of directors image, Rachel, handy?
I do. Yes, I can.
For them to see the way.
There you go.
Look at that.
And I'll see my fun there. So if we do them in order, number one is deliberative for me. So that's my sort of just overarching, gets to decide who's going to play today. Kind of like, you're allowed to talk. No, you're not allowed to play today. You're allowed to, no. Like, what is the plan today? Who do I need? My deliberative sort of picks who to work with, depending on what we have going on for the day. And then activator is my number two, which is my get it done. Like, we're doing all of the things because this is fun and this is fun and this is fun. And oh my gosh, this is so much fun. And I can do that. And I'm so good at this. And I would love to do that. And like, just wants to take on everything and be part of everything all the time. So we really have to dial down activator sometimes, and deliberative and activator fight with one another quite frequently. And so if there's ever a moment when they can get along, holy wow, things explode and everything is amazing. And it does happen, and it's happening more frequently as I have learned about these things. We're getting to know each other. So then 3 is connectedness. And I sort of get that, like, ooh, I see all the things sometimes. And like you were talking, Kate, I get so far ahead because I see it. I'm way past everybody else. And so I start leaving other people behind. And connectedness and activator get together. I'm gone and they're all lost. And I have to backtrack and start all over. And then my empathy, number 5, feels hurt because they didn't come with me. They weren't connected to me. My relator, they weren't getting me. They weren't hearing me. They didn't understand. Why didn't they understand me? I go into like freak out mode, right? Belief is my number 6. What was that?
I didn't hear that.
Oh, okay. Belief is 6, which means that once my deliberative and activator have sort of sorted out their crazy and said, this is what we're doing, belief grabs hold of that and says, we are 125% committed to this, and we're not going to let it go. And we are full force plowing into whatever this is. So I don't jump into things lightly. If I jump in, I'm all in. I'm not just like sort of halfway doing things. And then the rest of mine are sort of my information gatherers. I have input, which loves to collect it all and know it all. And then now I'm outputting it to you. Context loves to hear your backstory. Where do you come from? Where are we going? How did this start? What is the purpose of this? How do we keep it on that purpose? Developer wants you to learn and grow, come along and play with me because I think you are so cool and I want to know all about you. And I'm going to celebrate every eensy weensy tiny little thing, that little baby step that you take towards whatever your goal or thing is. And sometimes that gets me down on myself because I don't see my own baby steps, and I have to have other people point out my baby steps for me. And then futuristic is, again, the Futuristic plays very well with deliberative. Futuristic paints these beautiful pictures about where we're going with all the stuff that input and context have pulled in. And futuristic and deliberative like make all the plans. And then everybody else has to come along with whatever they decide to do.
Awesome. Thank you, Rachel. So you can see hers is a little prettier. She probably took more time to make it. Deliberative is 34 for me. And context is like 31. And empathy is 32. All of those things. But I can claim a lot of the other ones in my top 11. It's awesome. However you do it is totally perfect. It's totally perfect. However you decide to make yours. But I do want to encourage you to share them. Notice, just to reflect and mirror on Rachel, did you hear how well she knows herself? And she's able to articulate what the job is, how she uses it, how she aims it. She's an actual. So, and this started a year ago, Rachel? So from a year ago.
Yeah, I listened in on a very first call with you on January 29th. So almost to the date. Yeah, a year.
Happy anniversary, Rachel. That's so awesome. And so with individual coaching, with joining the programs, you have an opportunity to do that. And there's loads of free resources online. We created Spark to help you connect to what those free resources are. So you can just go to one place and go get them instead. But although you could just follow on Pinterest, follow hashtags on Instagram, put Clifton Strengths and StrengthsFinder in there and start following the movement, because it's really inspiring to see all across the globe the different ways that people are using this and activating it to change communities, which is fantastic. So, all right, so now it's just Q&A. We have 15 minutes left if you want some coaching, whatever you want to talk about. I hope we've covered the board of directors in a way you feel you can activate it. But what are your questions? How can I support you? Anybody? No questions. Comments are also welcome.
I don't have any questions. I've kind of been in a funk for an awfully long time. It's weird because I'm positivity, right? And I've been in a funk for like months, seriously. Just kind of dropped off the face of the earth. But I'm really excited now to get back into it and to find my board of directors and create mine and really delve into it. You've like reignited that fire in me. I'm appreciative of that, very much so.
Awesome. Awesome. Jan, what does your positivity need right now since you've had that season for yourself? What do you feel like positivity needs in order to, like, what wasn't fed during that season for you?
I need to do something. I actually need to do something.
Like taking action will raise your mood.
Yeah, I can write it all down in my planner, but unless I pick up the phone and I get moving, and I'm sure there was an incident because, I mean, went to a really dark place. You know, like nobody ever says what they're going to do. They never do what they say they're going to do. Just totally totally the opposite end, to where I didn't even really recognize myself. I was like, what is going on? So it's nice to start feeling like I'm pulling myself out of it. And I needed that little push, I think.
Yeah.
It's been beneficial.
That's so good, Jan. Thank you for your vulnerability. Give her some love in the chat box. That was awesome. I use strengths to pull myself out of a funk, but my funk was I might drive my car off a cliff. That's how bad my funk was, because my pain levels were a 9, like all the way, like my future couldn't be what I had thought and dreamed it could be. My relationships crashed. And so this strengths is it leverages, there's a hope in it because there's like a map that unfolds to how we're wired and what we need in order to feel fulfilled and to thrive.
Yeah, I never got that bad. I just didn't want to get out of bed. I went to sleep crying. I woke up crying. It was like, I've never in my life been that way. I was like, what is going on here? Whatever it was, I had to let go of a bunch of stuff. I was doing the I am worthy with there were a lot of things that entered into it, but I feel much more even keeled, much more balanced now. So I feel like I can actually start working on this.
Sit down.
And I'm really excited to get my pictures. Like that's like really enticing. That's all I want to do tonight now is sit at the computer and mess with that, you know?
Oh yeah. Do you have like, so just, do you remember that hierarchy of needs chart we did? Let me see if I can pull that up. I just want to say this for those of you that are, I don't know where all of you are. And so I'm just reminded of that by Jan's beautiful, authentic share. So I'm just going to share that again because let me just talk to you again about the context of what do you do for your learning? Here it comes. Share the screen in just a moment. Oh, it doesn't like that image. Hold on. Here we go. Let's try this. Okay, let's look at just this image real quick. So that bottom need, physiological needs, food, water, warmth, rest, safety needs, security and safety, belongingness and love needs, intimate relationships, friends, esteem needs. So this whole process, sometimes the strength stuff comes in. You might be introduced to it at a lower level here on this pyramid. And you're going to have to just flow with your own circadian rhythm to figure out when's the right time. So you're never late when you do personal development. You got to do it in alignment with the reality you're in. So you do the portion of work that creates leverage for you, so that you can resolve those physiological needs and safety needs. Because here's the reality for those of you that are entrepreneurs in here, which I think most everybody is. And I know you know this, but as you're stretching towards your vision, as you're stretching towards that vision, you are on a journey where you're going to hit tension. Because the closer you get to that vision, could you see the pyramid or you couldn't see it? Okay, let me go back to it. Can you see it? Okay. I don't know what that was. So self-actualization is the top space, physiological at the bottom. So as you're moving on in your vision, some of you are building your business because you need money to eat. So when you're in that phase, you're going to tend to be tactical oriented and doing skills training. It's hard for you to do the personal development and actualization until you hit that wall I showed you in that first diagram, because that's not what's present. And so we don't have the openness of mind to be able to try on new things. You're not even going to be coachable during that because it's outside of the context of your own circadian rhythm, your own life path. So you have to follow your intuition on some of that and not just jump on the bandwagons that other people are jumping on. You want to do what you get a hell yes for, a heart, a mind, heart, and gut yes. That's what creates the most value. So do your learning in congruence and alignment with where you are. Now, sometimes that means some of the learning that's available, sometimes it can terrify you a little bit, which is okay, because building a business makes you feel unsafe. So the closer you get to success, the greater the tension. That's expected. The closer you get to it, that tipping point where that need to be comfortable or be right or look good or be in control, and when that hits, that need to be comfortable is when that hits a lot in this work. Because if we start disrupting the way that you view things or you get greater clarity, suddenly you have to face that door of despair and look at your needs, and it's painful. So then you get this little voice in the back that rationalizes not doing any learning. Like, you're fine right here, we need to nap. Or this is good, that's overwhelmed, I'm foggy here, I didn't like that anyway, I wasn't well prepared. Like, this is, we tell a million stories because we're not committed to that end goal. You have to have a vision that's worthy of doing the work. Otherwise, you're not going to stay on the path. You're going to fall off. You might be in the wrong vehicle. But over the course of Spark, we get into that goal stuff, the meat of that. But it's supposed to keep everything top of mind. I've learned that there's 300 touch points in changing a habit. You want to change how you view yourself? It's not 21 days. It's 300 touch points. And you're going to see I'm working with Dr. Ryan Darby from Habit Technologies because we're going to be maximizing Spark into a platform that's going to give us those 300 touch points so that it becomes more effective, and then provide other skills training and use for you to help you with follow-up and whatever else is happening. So over the next 6 months, you'll see it getting better, which is very cool as we're learning and bringing other people in. But the work is the same. It's just you spending time with yourself, moving out of that judgment zone into the no judgment zone, and learning to aim your strengths at the goal. Up until now, which of your board of directors has been dominating that table? Who doesn't even have a chance to speak? Number 10 led the week. What would happen? Number 9 led the week. What does 6 need for you to be setting the conditions and getting clear on what you expect of others, what your perfect environment is to move forward? These are all things that we think about as we're in this journey. It gets super exciting. Are there any other questions? Anybody want coaching? Oh, Michelle. Michelle is here.
I am still struggling with relationship, as in gotten a lot better about being soft and connecting, but I mean, my top 5 is just what it is, and I don't have a relationship strength until number 17.
Okay.
And so like this weekend I got feedback from one person that I was a difficult person to love. I was like, well, you barely know me and you rubbed me the wrong way anyway, so. But that's exactly the perfect person for me to move towards, but I just get stuck with that.
Yeah. So if people are not, so there's different ways to connect. So let's look at this. You can relate to what Michelle has said or have received that feedback yourself of some kind. You can type in the chat box, not required, but give her some love for that vulnerability, please. That was amazing. So these are the axes of the 4 domains. So this is relationship line, and this is the task line. So what Michelle is describing is that her strengths, the top 17, which is she has 15 really that might show up every day. She is describing herself on this line here. So when people who have relationship themes or influencing or on this relationship line, if Michelle is not able to intuit or show up in a way that they need, she gets a certain feedback. So I know others of you are in that space because we've talked. Let's do this for a second. So relationship builders, they want to be enrolled and invited. They want authenticity. Influencing over here, they want feedback. They want direct communication. They're higher energy. And the relationship is better when it's tied to their own vision. Relationship, it's like it's easier to connect when you have a commitment to a shared vision, because then there's something to do in that space. So like looking at, Michelle, what your best relationships are, where you have the greatest intimacy other than your spouse, who are those people? Are those people you work with, or how did you pick those people up?
I mean, it's Jean-Marie, it's Amy, it's
people with a shared mission.
Yeah, it's my GAP community or my Journey community. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're all on a shared mission. Yeah, I guess they're the people closest to me.
Okay, that's beautiful. So when we look at this, I don't know if any of you have mapped your strengths before, but this is, I think, it's in the first, it's like day 3, possibly maybe day 4, could be day 2, but there's a 4. And there's a link to a video in the Spark Your Strengths group. If you just search domain, it's going to come up. There's a video, and we'll be doing some new videos over the next couple months. So this is definitely, something that's great. So when I'm trying to connect, so even though I have 3 relationship themes in my top 10, I do notice I do better connecting because I have so much execution and strategic thinking. This is strategic. And this is executing. My best people I'm working with. my best people, I also have a shared mission because I have 3 and something. Do you have significance, Michelle? I'm remembering, I think you do. Yeah, and I have that too. So there's a place of when we know what we're about and what we're about is the same, there's grace for a lot of the other stuff. So people's first impressions don't even matter as much to me because we know what we're about. But in this other zone here, like for instance, my husband's predominantly relationship. And so we really struggle at times to meet each other because his perception of me is what Michelle's describing. Like he's like, I can't connect to that. Like your way of connecting is like, you're telling me about things that that's like, it's not his way of being. And my coach said, oh, you just have to enjoy him. And I'm like, I want to be seen and heard. I want to be valued. I want him to be proud of me. I want all of my stories of what feels like connection to me from him. And like, you're telling me just to enjoy it. You're telling me to like, get off being right, get off controlling the
Go to bed now. Go put it away and come down and say prayers.
So it's just a very, very interesting space. I can't figure out which microphone to mute. I'm not sure. Sorry for that. Okay. So strategic thinking themes, so sometimes it just means I don't have as much awareness about how to create the enrollment, or I don't care enough, not either I don't care enough about them, it's just what they think. Doesn't mean we don't care. It just means they define care a certain way. And when that's not your internal wiring, because you don't need that connection first, then it just causes a bypass unless you're working on it. So it ends up being, so does Michelle either, she could decide, I'm not everyone's cup of tea. Is that, I don't know what you tell yourself, Michelle, like I'm not everyone's cup of tea, sometimes it's too much. Or what are the stories you tell yourself when you get that feedback?
Sometimes it is. I'm just like, okay, I'm a spice that you can't tolerate, and that's okay. Yeah. You don't have capacity for this level of spice, is what I say a lot of times, because I'm a very particular flavor and an acquired taste a lot of times.
An acquired taste. How many of you feel that you're an acquired taste? Yeah, it's like we're all in our zone, in that. So there's a place of looking at what enrollment and invitation and authenticity is for people. I had to get off my judgments about my husband's need for, like, I have to like land my plane in order to connect with him. And I just know that because I'm like, and he's like a turtle. That's how I feel. It's like, I'm like, are you going to move? Please tell me. Please tell me there's going to be a direction today because my activator's dying. Like, I need to know, what are we doing today? And he's just like about the way of being. He's about, all of that space. And so it's been really interesting for us to try and figure out how to connect, to be in that zone together. So I know some others of you can relate to that. I would say, Michelle, I would be listening. You probably don't have those people's strengths, but I would be spending some time on the Gallup podcast and hearing from people that validate the strengths that you have a little bit more, where you're really connecting to other people who have those themes and hearing the dynamic of what they see as possible and how they've navigated people's impressions. And I have some clients, a lot of my clients have self-assurance that are in the wine industry, and they're in high finance positions, and they don't care what people's perceptions are of them all the time. It's like they do care. They don't like being misunderstood. But there's just a space where they'll miss it in their blind spot doing that bottom 5 work because it's not primary to them to care about that. So although as a human we want care, they just know they keep tripping because that self-assurance theme. I don't know if you have that, but that's one that I see quite frequently, where they have to really get curious enough to discover what's happening. It's just not even on their radar. They would never make up in their head anything about approval. They don't need people's approval. And people who don't have self-assurance are like, how is that possible? And they judge it. And so that's their personal development work, and that's not about you. Our impact isn't always about us, right, people? Like that's like I'm not everyone's cup of tea, which is totally okay. I'm not. My programs aren't for everybody. The way I teach isn't for everybody. You need a variety of teachers and programs in your life. But for the right people, if you don't sacrifice your genius zone and you don't sacrifice by playing small or puffing up for those connections, the right people do meet you there in that zone. And that's your highest level of work, the highest impact, the most energy for you, and the most intimacy. When we start trying to fit ourselves in other containers or take on people's assessments of us, it becomes complicated. So that is priceless. Yes, Jen, most important work right now. Thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing that way to show up for the influencing and strategic. I love it. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing the screen. We'll do more. So this is just like a little highlight. If you're not a member of the online program, it's only $29.99. And that gives you, there's no expiration because I'm inviting you to the tribe. We have, we try to do one coaching call a month. There's loads of videos and resources in the file section. Rachel goes on live during our Spark challenges, and we're going to begin on February 8th. So I'm announcing that. Rachel doesn't even know that I'm starting on February 8th, but that is what I'm doing. So that's Tuesday. No, wait, that's January. It's a Friday, February 8th, because I'm hoping that gives us a space for you between now and then to bring some people with you to do it. So that's not a bad price for mentoring and strengths. If you want to do individual coaching, I can get you in touch. I'm not taking any personal clients right now that aren't inside my Looking Glass program, unless, yeah, just not until March. And I might not be able to in March, but I know Rachel and Jen both are available, I believe, to some degree, if you want some strengths coaching and some discovery work. So that is where it's at. I promise I do pop in there. And I do try to show up enough. And you can find me also on my regular page if you're not following me, facebook.com/Coach Kate Pintor. So thank you so much for coming tonight. Any other thoughts as we close? Any other thoughts? Anybody need any other information? Do you need help logging in? I appreciate you all being here. This recording will be available and you may share it with your team. You are welcome to do that. It will be up on my YouTube channel and I will send the link so that you can look at it from there. Oh, also super quick, if you're loving the deep work, April 29th, we'll be in Fraser, Colorado. My colleague Jean Marie Jobs and I are putting on our Awaken Your Hero retreat. Rachel will be there. And there is it's going to be amazing. It's a beautiful house. And it's strengths-based. Jean's going to be doing training. The second day, we're going to be doing a debrief using strengths language and taking a look at ourselves. So this blind spot work is totally present. The story that you tell about yourself, your ceiling, wherever you are in your life, that ceiling, you ready to bust it? Break up with those myths? Let's do it. So that's the full deep work. You're going to walk out of there and you're not going to view anything the same ever again. It's the highest level of this purpose conversation. So I invite you to join us there, and then everything just trickles in and comes together for you. So that's it for today. Thanks for joining us, and I hope I see you online or in person soon. Take care. Bye-bye.